Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Witch's Rambles. I am so happy that to be doing this morning. Animals as signs and messengers is one of my most favorite things to talk about, to ramble about. And so I'm so happy to be doing this with you. I hope that this gives you some insight and some guidance around, some animal signs that may be popping up in your world or maybe have. Um, Before, or maybe you're new to paying attention to animal signs, right? So I'm very excited to do this ramble today to talk about animals as signs and messengers. Um, Signs are everywhere, all around us, all the time, if we're paying attention. And if we're curious about what the things we see are trying to tell us. So, there's messages that come to us through numbers, repeating numbers that we see. There are messages that come to us in our dreams and through random conversations, or just things that pop into our world. But animals are such beautiful messengers. And this is, animals, birds, even insects can be signs and messengers if we're paying attention and we're curious. And, they show up in all kinds of different ways. They may show up physically in your environment, but they might also show up, like I said, in your dreams. They may show up in, social media posts where you see the same animal repeating over and over again over a couple of days. Like maybe you're seeing butterflies everywhere all the time. That is a sign, that is a message for you. And so when we're paying attention, these messages, these signs can give us so much guidance and can be so supportive. And then we can start to work with the animal energy and we can start to call on their energy when we need it. But an animal, an animal, a bird, an insect that you see all the time can be a messenger or a reminder. Crows, for me, are one that have been, excuse me, crows have been signs and messengers for me since I was very young. There was a tree outside my bedroom window as a child where there would be, an entire murder of crows would rest there at night, and their cawing would drive me crazy. But I learned over time that for me, crows are messengers and signs of magic being around. And even though when I was very, very young, I didn't understand all of this, when we're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, we don't really get this. And, when I was growing up, all of this energy stuff really wasn't a thing in my world. But the messengers, the crows, were there. And now, even to this day, they are a sign, a message to me that magic is all around. And they have been a sign and a messenger all of my life. And animal messengers, sometimes they will be a lifelong, one in particular, like crow, will be a part of our life for our entire life. When we see them, we know what they're telling us. And this is a really beautiful thing. They can be confirmation, they can be supportive, they can be guidance, they can be reminders, right? There are some times that I forget that I'm surrounded by magic all the time. And crow will invariably pop onto one of the trees outside my window here and start cawing at me, start making noise at me to let me know the magic is still here. We're still here. The magic is here. And so, you know, these animals that and birds particularly are big signs for me. Insects, dragonfly is another big one. But these messengers, these animals, these birds that we see all the time hold messages for us. And they're so supportive and there's so much guidance in them. And they're just so beautiful. And I'm trying not to get off on a tangent here because this just excites me so much. Um, I love that Mother Nature and her animals and her creatures of all kinds show up for us, right? They show up to guide us, to support us, to bring us messages that we need to hear. And, random animal visitors are usually a message that we're needing to hear at the time that we see them, right? So they may show up just once, like the otter that appeared here the other day. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll maybe have seen my post about the otter that just randomly trotted across my yard one afternoon a few days ago. First time I've seen one here. I'm sure it's not the first time that an otter has come across my property. It was, however, the first time that I saw it. And his message for me and others, this is something else that comes up, is that the messages that are brought to you may be for you, but they may be for other people in your world as well. So when I saw Otter, his message for me was very, very clear. And then there were others that I felt drawn to share him with, and the message was for them as well. And Otter is playfulness. And I've been getting a lot of nudges about renewing my work with the crystals and stones. So I'm a certified crystal healer, and I haven't really been working with them as much as I used to. And so I've been getting a lot of messages in dreams about renewing my devotion and my work with the crystals. And otters, I don't know if you know this or not, but otters actually have a little pouch where they carry their favorite stone. So the playfulness and pulling out the favorite stone, which I mean is tiger's eye, is my heart stone. I cannot resist it, never have been able to resist it. And so this is one of my favorite, tiger's eye. Also another animal energy, right? And we'll talk a little bit about calling on animal energy. And I'm just in this moment actually making the connection with the tiger's eye. We are coming to the end of the year of the tiger, and I actually have my little tiger figure. He's been sitting, hanging out with me on my desk this year, since the beginning of the year, calling on that energy of tiger. But so, Otter came around and reminded me that I needed more fun and more playfulness and more creativity in my life. And so this was a message that I needed in that moment. And, when we have a random animal or bird or critter that appears in our life suddenly, whether they come around just once. So Otter showed up that afternoon and hasn't been back since. An animal may show up randomly over a few days, weeks, maybe even months, and then just disappear, which is something that happened with owl. So there was a barred owl that was one of my first visitors here when I'd first moved here to the end of the earth and I was going through my divorce. And the message from owl was very, came at exactly the right time, came exactly when I needed it. And because I was paying attention, it was really kind of hard to ignore because he landed right on the screen room frame right outside my door. Really hard to miss, right? So if an animal critter shows up randomly in your face and it's really hard to miss, get curious about the message that they're trying to bring to you and trust your first impressions. So, whatever you may know about that animal or that bird or that critter, trust your first instinct of what you know and what that animal means to you. And if it doesn't mean anything, then it's okay. Go Google it, go look it up. Ted Andrews, Animal Speak, his book is one of my favorite resources. I have another little pocket guide where I will, you know, often look up a message if what I know isn't quite resonating to the situation. I'll go and pull out the book, and often it gives some clarity around what the message is that that animal is bringing. And when Owl showed up at the time of my divorce, he showed up and he was around for a few weeks and then gone. But at the time, the message was exactly what I needed. It was, to use your voice and to face your challenges with grace, and to move in an attitude of cooperation through the situation and in the relationships and through the process. And so, doing that, listening to that message, made the process that I was going through with my divorce a whole hell of a lot easier, right? It could have been a lot worse than what it was. And it wasn't great. I mean, let's face it, going through a divorce kind of sucks. It was better because I listened to the message and I leaned into that support and leaned into what I was being told and followed that direction. And it just made it a whole lot easier. So, when these random animals, birds, show up in your world, it's usually a message you're needing at that time. And if you follow the guidance, if you follow the message, if you listen to what they're telling you, it can really help in whatever situation that you're in, whether it's a divorce or a move or a new work endeavor or whatever it may be. There will be, if you're paying attention, there will be animals, there will be signs that come into your world to help support you and guide you and give you direction. And I have animal runes actually, that whenever I do readings, the animal runes are always a part of every reading. I have several decks that I use, but it depends, the decks are intuitively chosen. I don't use the same deck for every reading. I don't use the same decks for the same person. The decks are intuitively chosen. The animal runes are a part of every single reading for their additional guidance and support, because the animals, they know. They're so connected to Mother Earth, right? And so we can connect through the animals and we can benefit from their guidance and from their support. So these random animal visitors very, very often have messages for us. They may come around just once, like the otter did. They may come around repeatedly for a few days or a few weeks or a few months and then go when, you've got the message and you don't need them anymore. Um, and then they may be a message that they come in randomly with the same message, like a reminder or a repeat of the message, and then leave. So, heron, the great blue heron, was a messenger for years of a move. And, my ex husband and I, it took us a little while to kind of make this connection, which can happen sometimes. You might see a random animal, not connect with the fact that it's bringing you a message, but then a few months later, you see them again, and it's a similar situation. You start to make these connections in time, right? And heron was one of these for me, for us. And so we would see a heron, and it was kind of like a heads up message. Every time we would see a heron, we would end up moving. Within 3 months, we would end up moving. And we moved a lot over the course of the time we were married. But and I'm not even sure exactly when herons started showing up to give us the heads up that we were moving, but it got to the point where even if we weren't entertaining the thought of a move, we would see a heron and we would look at each other and just laugh. It's like, okay, where are we off to now? What's going to happen? And invariably, something would come up and we would end up moving. So, this is something else to pay attention to. If there's an animal that pops in to give you a similar or the same message time and time again, right? So then you can start to know when this creature shows up, this is what the message is. This is what I'm being told. This is, so you can prepare yourself, right? They're giving you the heads up. And so that that repeating message, this happens a lot. Dragonfly is a repeating message for me. Crow is a repeating message for me. Um, And heron, the message from heron actually changed. So this can happen as well. After 15 years of heron being a sign of a move, when I moved here into this little cottage, heron was like the very first time I came here, the very first time I I can't remember. I think I was here the very first time I came here on my own. Heron Like, I don't even think I was here half an hour, and heron came and landed on one of the trees. I didn't even know that they perched really high up in trees until this day, but they do. But he came and landed in the tree, and it felt so much like a welcome home, and heron has now become a sign of home for me as opposed to a sign of a move. And the difference came when we would see the heron before and it was a sign of a move, the heron was always flying away from us. It would come over us and fly away from us. One of the last moves was when I saw a heron in a very random place. It was actually flying towards me, and this was actually a sign of moving back home to my province. And then moving here into my little cottage, heron landed on the tree. It wasn't in flight, it was settling and it was immediate. I was here the first time on my own. And like I say, I don't think I was here half an hour and heron landed on the tree. And it was just like, holy crap, what is even happening right now? But so sometimes the messages can change over time, but as you start to get to know your animal messengers, you will know the messages they are bringing to you, and you will know when they change, right? And Heron had a very consistent message for 10 or 15 years, and then the change was very distinct. But it revolved around the same subject, right? It revolved around home. It revolved around moves and being settled. And so when Heron welcomed me home, that was a very distinct shift in Heron's message. And looking back, now I see how Heron was, supporting and directing and guiding me and kind of letting me know that I would find my way home. And so this is one of the reasons why I get so excited about animals and signs and messages and the things that they teach us. And so starting to pay attention to the animals that are around you, the ones that show up all the time, um, and what they mean to you. What is your first impression? Looking it up if you need to, and seeing what the message is. And it's just such a beautiful, supportive guidance. And again, like I say, they can be physical in your world, like heron landing on my tree or otter crossing my yard. They can also come to us in dreams. I've been dreaming a lot about kittens definitely cats and kittens. And, this is a sign there's joy and happiness and change. And so, um, because kittens are a lot of fun, right? Um, so there's the signs there. They can come in our dreams. They can show up in pictures. They can show up on signs. They can show up in repeated, seeing the same image over and over and over again in social media posts, or seeing, taking note, watching a show and taking note of a random picture on the wall of the animal that you've been seeing. If it jumps out at you, if it's something that you wouldn't ordinarily notice, but it ties into, hey, I've seen 12 butterflies today. Hey, I've seen 6 crows today. Hey, I've seen whatever it is, taking note because they will keep trying to get the message that you need to you in all the ways that they can. And like I say, it can come in so many different ways, but the signs are everywhere if we're paying attention and if we're curious about what are the animals, what the universe, what Mother Earth, um, what the field is trying to tell us, what spirit, what source is trying to tell us. And the messages are supportive, they are guidance, they are um, reminders, they are a heads up of what's coming or a heads up of what to expect. They can be an in the moment message like otter, or they can be a heads up like heron. And so I'm curious if there are animals that have shown up for you over the long term, like crows for me, or if there are animals popping up in your world that are like, hey, where the heck did you come from? What are you trying to tell me? And just getting curious and feeling into the messages that are there to help guide and support you. Like I say, this is why the animal runes are always, always, always a part of every single reading that I do, because they do have such beautiful supportive energy and such beautiful guidance to give us if we are willing to listen. So, um, I hope this makes sense. I have rambled a lot. Hi, Taryn. How you doing, sister? It's good to see you. Yeah, so I'm just rambling about animals and just the signs that have been coming up lately, and um, all the ones that have come up over the years. And it's really amazing how supportive the animals can be for us and their messages, how they can give us so much direction. Mm. We just have to pay attention and get curious and following our first instinct. A lot of people have negative impressions around crows when they see crows, particularly three. I don't know why people are suddenly talking about three crows, seeing three crows being a bad omen, because to me, crows are just a sign of magic being around. And I actually have three crows that visit here on a very regular basis. And there's no negative feeling around them at all. So it's really important to trust your feeling around the animal signs that you're seeing, because what they mean to me may not be what they mean to you, and what they mean to someone else may not be what they mean to you. So it's really important to trust your impressions when you see your animal signs, and to, look them up if you need to. I still look them up. There are signs that I have seen for years and years and years, and sometimes I still go and look them up just to see if there's anything else I need to know, right? And so look them up. Ted Andrews, like I say, Ted Andrews Animal Speak, fantastic resource. And there are lots of little pocket guides, and finding the one that resonates for you is I encourage you to do that so that you have an access to a resource. You can, of course, always Google and find out lots. I had to Google about kittens because, I mean, the only thing I know about kittens is that they're cute and fluffy and um, very playful. And so I had to kind of look into the message and read through. And I took what resonated for me, what made sense for me, because, there's a ton of information out there when you start Googling animal signs. So paying attention to the animal signs and messengers that you see, trusting your first impressions, and just leaning into their support. They are so supportive. Their guidance is so valuable. And it's the animals have been such an invaluable support to me over the years. Having Heron come by and let me know that a move was on the horizon was very helpful. Being able to prepare myself for that, because moving is a big deal, right? There's a lot of work involved in a move. So if you can have something, if an animal is bringing you the message that that's on the horizon, you can prepare yourself. And they give us this kind of guidance and support in so many different ways. So I encourage you to pay attention to the animals in your world, and, particularly the random ones that show up, or the ones that have been kind of always a part of your world, but maybe you haven't investigated the messages that they're bringing to you, and just see what they have to say. There is probably some really good guidance and support within those animals that are showing up in your world all the time. So I am going to sign off, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Monday and a beautiful week. And I will see you next Monday. I already have bits of impressions of what next week's ramble is going to be, but we'll see how that fleshes out. And if you enjoy this, I would very much appreciate a like and a share and a subscribe so that I can, continue to share more with you as the weeks go on. My website and Facebook page and Instagram and all that kind of stuff is in the comments there, or is in the description. It's not comments, in the description down below. So I would love to have you come and visit me on Facebook. I'm there more often than Instagram. I have trouble branching out into other platforms, but we're getting better. Technology and I have an evolving relationship. So I'm actually really impressed that I got on here today without any technical issues. That was really cool. It's nice. We're making progress. So sending you whole bunches of love and encouraging you to watch out for the animals and signs in your world and seeing what they're telling you, because they're there to support and guide you. And just sending you a whole bunch of love and wishes for a beautiful, beautiful week. And I will see you next time.